Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. I have two distinguished guests today joining me from CoHNA, Shobha Swami and Suresh Krishnamurthy. Let's welcome them. We have some very important details to discuss regarding what's happening on the East Coast. Gentlemen and Shobha ji, Namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel. How are you?
Namaste. Doing really well. Thank you for having us.
Namaste. Namaste, Shriji. Thank you very much for having us. We are doing well. Well,
Thank you so much.
As well as we can hope to, I guess, after yesterday's experience.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So viewers, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago with other members of CoHNA, where we talked about an event that was supposedly happening on Rutgers, but it wasn't clear at that point of time if it had the blessings of the Rutgers University itself. So Sureshji, let's start from there. You were there at that event. First off, was this an officially sponsored event of Rutgers University?
Okay, so it gets a little bit tricky. So the basic answer is yes, it was held in Rutgers University. It was held at Rutgers University. It was on campus. It was inside their building. It was in their conference room. It was, covered by campus security. So for all intents and purposes, this was a Rutgers University event, because I don't think if I walked up to Rutgers and said, hey, I want your room for a program that I want to conduct, they're just going to allow me to do that. The two people who talked were professors at Rutgers. The groups sponsoring it were all part of Rutgers University. So they have this, group called CSRR, Center for Social and something Racial Responsibility or something like that. That is an offshoot of, it's a part of Rutgers University. They have, there's something called a Global Alliance Institute or something like that, which is also part of Rutgers. So, I mean, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, quacks like a duck, obviously it's a duck. So as far as we are concerned, it was a Rutgers University event. Now, we wrote a letter to Rutgers University telling them, like, look, guys, why are you sponsoring this event? And they sent back a letter late yesterday, which basically said the opinions of people expressing their opinions as theirs are not Rutgers. No, they left a general purpose blank, bland statement, which I guess everybody does. But, to my mind, this was a Rutgers event.
Thank you so much. And Shobhaji, I'll come to you in just a moment. I want to capture the impressions of Sureshji at this event. My first question is not to you, but to 𝗤𝗏𝗡𝗏. You claim to be a Hindu expert, and many of your observations are just flat out wrong. You persist in doing this thing. I mean, do you see any Hindu telling what takes place on a Sunday school or what happens in a mosque? We respect all religions, and yet you continue to do this thing. You just missed by a whisker losing that case against Hindu American Foundation, and yet you are back again, spreading wild stuff. And Sureshji is going to recount what happened yesterday in this event. And I have some observations from what we talked before we started recording this, Sureshji. So I'll yield the floor to you. Please go ahead and do that. And then I will invite you, Shobhaji, to your observations on what Sureshji said. And then I'll add my stuff, and then we'll continue the conversation. Over to you, Sureshji.
Thank you. It's hard. I'm used to academia. I graduated, as people might know, I graduated from one of the best schools in India. I went to NYU here. I'm used to the academic environment. My wife has a PhD in linguistics, so I'm used to how academia works. And I am fully familiar with this notion of academic freedom and the special place it has in our discourse. But what I found incredible yesterday, and one of the reasons I wanted to be there in person, was to take Rutgers and Professor 𝗏𝗏 on their stated goal of making this about academic freedom, free inquiry, debate, etc., etc., etc. So my hope going to that event in person and literally sitting across the table from her was to try and engage her in what I would think is a respectful conversation. So we were determined, there were quite a few people from the Hindu community present in the room, And we were determined not to play the same kind of tactics that the 𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏 Soundararajans of the world have played against us, which is to walk into a group and start yelling and screaming. So we were extremely polite. We were absolutely, totally polite. And then it struck us that as I was listening to her conversation, it was very clear that the whole purpose of this conference, if you will, was to further the agenda that was predetermined. And that agenda was Hindutva bad. Hindus, if they don't actively eschew Hindutva in public, Hindus bad. Hindu kids are being somehow, what should I say, made extreme. They are being sensitized and turned into Hindu nationalists. So the Hindu nationalist agenda is here in America to stay, and they are putting Muslims and other minorities such as Sikhs and so on in threat. This was a narrative that was very clear from the beginning. There were three people in the room. One person introduced, the other was Sahar Aziz, who is the head of CSRR, who is also there. And between Sahar and Professor 𝗏𝗏, the messaging was very, very, very clear, right? Our report is correct in all its respects, and it is important for the government to act on our recommendations. And our recommendations are, A, all these groups should be investigated for their foreign connections, and they should decline to provide visas to people who we think are in support of whatever is going on in India, right? So that was the story. That was the whole story. And along the way, she drops many, many, many statements as though they were like, they're just true because she says so. So, for example, she makes statements like, all these organizations are part of the Sangh Parivar. I mean, she doesn't offer any evidence of it at all, just states it, right? Then she states that Hindutva is Hindu nationalism. She just states it. There is no debate, there is no argument, nothing. And she constantly pushes this theme that we are academics, we know more than you do. And it's very blatant, right? And so the entire impression I got from listening to her and Aziz and others for about an hour and a half was that we know what it is that you're up to, and no matter what you say, we're not going to believe you. You are who you are, and that's just the way it is. And that's my impression.
Thank you so much, Suresh. 𝗍𝗏𝗍, you've also been, you made a presentation, I think, in your city council, and you're also, front and center observing a lot of things happening in the state of Georgia. How do I put this thing? People have under United States Constitution, the freedom to pursue any religion they want. And as long as it doesn't impose on somebody else, there should be no issues at all. Now, 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏, and she is one of the torchbearers, but she is displaying her shallowness when she says Hindus are different from Hindutva. Right there is a problem. If you think that you're going to teach Hinduism, and if you don't know the real meaning of Hindutva, then you are unqualified. You're not qualified to teach this. That's my personal view. I wouldn't send my children to take that course. And this is basically a blatant way to try and paint it as something that it is not. This is just my 2 cents. 𝗍𝗏𝗍, how do you feel when you have to listen to this kind of trash by one Muslim and one Christian about a religion that they were not born with? They've acquired knowledge, questionable again, with gaps here and there and everywhere. And Hinduism is such a scientific dharma. It's not even a religion. Sanatana dharma, it is an eternal dharma. It's not a religion. They lose it right from the beginning. And it's not possible for anybody attending there in 5 minutes to explain what this is, what Sanatana dharma is. It's a very deep, layered thing. People can spend their lifetime interpreting what Sanatana dharma is. And it's been there for thousands of years. 𝗍𝗏𝗍, I'm sorry to give this long introduction for asking your opinion. My blood is boiling. I'm just listening to Sureshji for 5 minutes. I don't know, Sureshji, how you sat there for 90 minutes listening to this spiel. Over to you, 𝗍𝗏𝗍.
Yes. Definitely. And in the past, we have also noticed from the other Dismantling Hindutva conference,
Yes.
our research has told us through all the presentations and workshops that went through that conference that first the attack is against Hindutva, without any basis, without any background, without anything, without understanding the meaning of what Hindutva even means. And the second part is they bring in the fact that in order to dismantle this concept of Hindutva, we have to find out what Hinduism is. And then they finally conclude that in order to dismantle Hindutva, you have to dismantle Hinduism. So what does that tell you? So they claim that Hindutva is a fascist, nationalist concept of Hinduism. And then they conclude by saying we have to really dismantle the whole of Hinduism in order to dismantle Hindutva. So you can see that they are just building up a narrative that they have conjured up on their own with no basis, with no references, nothing. And this freedom of speech at universities is what gives them the right to spew whatever they want. And here we need enough of us speaking up, especially in academic networks, in terms of other, professors of Hindu studies and so on, to literally have to take her on and then challenge the narrative that she is purporting. And this causes a lot of damage, as you know, and as Sureshji will mention, to youth, to all our youngsters. This is a means and ways of breaking up the Hindu family, and for Hindu students and children to be ashamed of their very own, like you mentioned, Sanatana Dharma, an indigenous, age-old, thousands of year-old indigenous system and culture and tradition based on Shastras and based on our Vedas, which is holistic, which looks at the whole world, the cosmos, and all living beings with equal mutual respect. And all these tenets and principles of Sanatana Dharma are overlooked, are not even addressed, and there's not even a mention of any of this. So we don't understand from our side what gives us the right with regards to making, statements such as this, and then not having to pay any repercussions for such, dangerous and blasphemous statements against a whole community of Hindus.
So, Sureshji, Rutgers has a fairly high student body of Indian origin, whether they are students coming from India or Indian Americans based in the East Coast. Rutgers is a well-known name, especially for those living in New Jersey. It's like the university of choice. And in my book, like I said, she is eminently unqualified to teach Hinduism or any kind of thing around that. Now, our children, to some extent, we are also at fault in the sense that we are so, focused on getting them like the best kind of education they can possibly get. And, you are going to MIT, you are going to Ivy League, you are going to this school, that school. And from the age of 5, we have kind of determined the future for our children. And that laser-like focus to get them the academic strength and that what I would call as building up their cognitive intelligence skills. We're doing that a lot. Unfortunately, somewhere along the way, we are forgetting to teach our children what exactly is our dharma. I admit that this is our fault. Some of us stumble upon the right path after a little bit. But the average child, if you look at it, they somehow, when they go to these universities and then suddenly somebody unleashes on them, they know the face and they know you are an Indian American origin person, then they go and unleash on you, Holi is a racist festival, Diwali is a racist festival, this, that. Suddenly, you are like, I apologize for all this, without knowing what exactly it is that you are being accused of. In a way, I see this thing, and I would like both of you to weigh in on this. Hindu American children are being weaponized to fight this war for them. And unfortunately, we are completely powerless, because once they go to the universities, right, there's hardly any time. They'll come for a semester break over the weekend. They'll come and they put on their headsets. They're on Reddit or whatever it is. I mean, there is no time to do a proper sit-down conversation. This should have been done when they were 5 years or 6 years of age. Sureshji, do you see this? Do you see it the same way as I do? Over to you, sir.
Yeah, I do. It's particularly important. What you just said is very important. Now, I noticed. I mean, we've been interacting with college-age Hindu Americans. I think there are a couple of trends that I find personally are very encouraging. Like, for example, yesterday at Rutgers, we had a group of very committed young Hindu American Indian kids, Indian American, Hindu American kids who were obviously, Indian origin. Many of them were born and raised here. And they were willing to come up and be part of us, right? They have, even though, like you said, they have kind of grown up without necessarily being told what Hinduism is and how it works and so on and so forth. They still have that instinctive, what we would call the genetic or the genetic cultural DNA that makes them want to come out and say, okay, let's find out what this is all about. In my view, if universities left well enough alone, in other words, if they did not step up and start spewing negative stuff about Hinduism, our kids will go to college, they will go through 4 years of college, they will discover Hinduism in their own way, and
Yes.
they will be part of it, and they will have a lifelong friend and a companion to see them through anything that life may throw at them. But what universities are doing, both not just in New Jersey, it is in New Jersey, it is in Georgetown, it is in Mercer, for example, it is here in Emory. All these universities, they are actively dismantling the infrastructure that these kids know and have in order for them to be even curious about Hinduism. So they're actively undermining their faith system. And I think I have an idea why. Having looked at this and having talked to many professors, the reason is two things. One is they want to control the narrative. Clearly, these Asian studies professors, they want to control the narrative of what Asian studies or Hinduism or anything is at all times. That's one. The second is they want to actively recruit these kids away from Hindu dharma so they can be pliable and usable in their other initiatives, whatever they may be, whether it is, social justice issues here in the United States, whether it is, socialist issues in, say, Venezuela, whether it is Israel versus Palestine, whether it is Kashmir, whether it is Uyghur Muslims in China, anywhere they feel, they meaning the academic group that wants to control this narrative, feel that they need a set of foot soldiers who can advocate their views on their behalf. They want to have this group of students ready to do their bidding. I mean, I watched this thing going on in Colombia, right? This entire the entire demonstration against Palestine and Israel. And I look at it and I go, why is it that kids who you would think would have other things on their mind are somehow drawn into this conflict? And what I realized was they are drawn into this conflict because they are directed there by their professors who are essentially deprogramming and then reprogramming them. In a sense, they are undermining their individual structures, whatever they might be, whether it is the Christian church that they grew up in, or whether it is, whether they were atheistic or whatever. They're all being recruited for the cause of these academics. And that bothers me. I'm a financial professional, right? I've been in the financial system. I've been an expert in financial system for 35, 40 years. And I've always found that academia, professors of finance, would invite me to come in and give lectures on specific topics in finance to their MBA students, for example. Primarily because they recognize that there is a difference between the theory that they learned as professors and the practice that a practitioner like me sees in the field. But that doesn't seem to apply when it comes to Hinduism, for example. Professors of Hinduism are so confident that they do not need any input at all from practitioners, unlike, say, financial professionals or even, basketball players. I mean, coaches get NBA players to come in and talk to them all the time about what the real experience is out in the world. But somehow, when it comes to religion, professors, especially the Asian religion professors in the United States seem to feel that they have got all the information, they need to control the narrative, and they are particularly threatened by the presence of openly practicing Hindus. So yesterday I was at this is how I am all the time, right? I always have Buddhi on. I always go.
Actually, you are an inspiration for me, SureshJi. Although I don't have full this thing today, there were a reason for that, but you are an inspiration for me. Please go ahead.
Right, so I was looking exactly like this. I was sitting there and I was right across the table, and I could see the look in her eyes, right? It's like, oh my God, what are you doing here? You are such. And she followed up, because she followed up with a tweet that came at the end of the program at the end of the program, this is a trivial incident, but still at the end of the program, I said, look, in the spirit of conversation, I walked up to her and I said, look, hello, let me introduce myself. I'm Suresh Krishnamurthy. She says, oh, I know who you are. What do you want? I said, well, I just want to shake your hand and start a conversation. She said, no, and walked away. And then
this is 𝗪𝗡𝗡𝗥𝗘𝗧?
Yeah.
Very unprofessional.
And
If you're going to one second. If you're going to shoot barbs at others, and the other person is just trying to make conversation with you, is that how you behave? Is that what your parents taught you? Back to you.
The funny thing is, in the evening, she posts on Blue Sky, right? She posts saying, she's basically saying, I have a principle that I do not shake hands with fascists, and today I was able to put that principle into motion. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm laughing because her determination of whether I am a fascist or not is completely irrelevant to me. And yet, she doesn't seem to have the self-awareness to say how it reflects on her. As an academic, she's sitting there going, oh, I have academic freedom. I believe in debate, but I'm going to call somebody who wants to shake my hand as a fascist, right? So the up and down of this for me is, it's all part of a scheme and part of a larger plan to break students away from their Hindu origins, Hindu cultural origins, by presenting them with a narrative that is deliberately designed to make Hinduism look bad. Deliberately designed, no question about it, right? And they don't even entertain an opposite point of view. They just say, we are academics, we know better, you better shut up, right? And you better just listen to us. Now, interestingly enough, we had this, and Shobha can talk more about this. We have this gentleman, I call him gentleman by out of habit, but Peter Fredreich, who's been doing the rounds here in Georgia. And he has been going to every single town council, city council, whatever group he can find, and telling them about how big of a danger Hindutva is. And I was struck by how similar the language is. Every time he walks into any of these places, the report he kind of literally waves in his hand is the Hindutva report that Audrey Truschke was talking about yesterday. So I'm kind of scratching my head going, okay, where is this? How is this all connected? And clearly, the plan is to plant this notion that Hindutva bad, Hindutva in US bad, people who have not actively eschewed Hindutva bad, and these people, if they are Hindus, they are Hindu nationalists, they're terrorists, they are here among us to kill our kids. That is literally the narrative that they're pushing. And I don't know why. I kind of guess as to why, but I think it's because they want to control that narrative, continue with that recruitment. And here is my warning, and Shobhaji, I know you have personal experience with this. My warning to parents is, take this seriously. This is a serious threat as your kids go to college. They're not going there for science. Yes, they are going there for science, but they're not coming out of it with just science. They're coming out of it with people who are telling them specifically that your parents, if they are active practicing Hindus and they have not come out and ranted and raved against this caste menace that has come to the United States, and they have not talked about Modi as a fascist, they have not talked about all of this, then they are fascists themselves. And you should kind of break away from it. 𝗏𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏𝗏 says that, right? She says that in a meeting. So it's a very coordinated attempt to make our kids feel ashamed of who they are. It is deliberate. I have no doubt in my mind, it is deliberate, it's coordinated, and it is very well funded. And because it emanates from academia, it has this sheen of authority. And Professor 𝗏𝗏𝗏 makes no bones about it. She's like, well, we are the people who are always going after facts. We don't take it just because somebody says them. And yet they expect us to take what they say because they say them. That kind of cognitive dissonance, I don't even know if they realize it or it's deliberate. I just don't get it.
Suresh, one other thing that many of these people are waking up to is they did not expect the kind of pushback that they are getting from the Hindu American community, because we are picking apart their arguments and their assumptions, and it does rankle, because I can't imagine a professor of standing of so many years not wanting to shake with somebody who may not agree with her point of view about a topic. I mean, this is childish, immature behavior in my book. I'm sorry, let me stop here.
I agree with you. No, but let me point out one other thing. The Sanskriti matters. The reason I say that is this. In that same meeting yesterday, we had a whole bunch of Sikhs who were also there, right? And they were worried about optics, so Sahar Aziz called a couple of elderly Sikh gentlemen to come sit right next to me on the two sides so they could balance it out, yada, yada, yada. I turned around to them and I just wished them 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏 𝗏. Right? These are people who are supposedly, completely opposed to me, who hate me kind of people, right? I just told them 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏, and they immediately said 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏 namaste. They disagreed with me, but they disagreed with me with politeness. They were not afraid to shake my hand. They were not afraid to put their hands over my shoulder and say, look, this is how we feel. And this is where I think we do a bad job of not emphasizing the Sanskriti enough. Whether you are Buddhist, Jain, Sikh, Lingayat, whether you are Hindu, Dharmic, whether you are whatever you are, if you come from that Sanskriti that was nurtured in that land for 10,000 years, part of that Sanskriti is that politeness, is that willingness to debate, and these so-called professors in the West, they claim to be experts of Indology. I don't care how many years you claim to be studying it. If you didn't practice it, if you didn't grow up in it, it is not part of you. And I'm so grateful to the Sikhs who are there, because they were willing to talk to me. And this is natural, right? This is a natural affiliation, that affinity they feel for people coming from the land. And I was so touched by that. And that contrast to me jumped out at me. Was one where Audrey 𝗏𝗏𝗏 says, I won't even shake your hand. And the other where he says, let me tell you what's going on. So, मैं ये बता रहा हूं, तो तू ये बता. Right? They were talking to me in Hindi. And that politeness, that Samskriti, we don't emphasize that enough. I think that is very Indic. It is what brings us together. That's what keeps us together. And we need to do more to encourage that.
𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, I'm sorry, we've both been hogging a lot of the limelight today. I'll defer to you. I'll give you uninterrupted time. First off, you feel what I was trying to observe, that our children are being weaponized against us, and also, behavior, Audrey 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's behavior feels insecurity, that she's not really sure, but she wants to put this bluster that you're not worth talking to, you're not worth shaking your hands. I mean, that's my 2 cents. Over to you.
Definitely. They feel very threatened. Definitely. That's precisely the reason she didn't want to encourage Suresh or his views or any of our views either, is because they feel threatened. And they have similar actors in different fields, ways, walks of life, in environmental, causes and issues, and all the other things that ecological causes and issues, any other social causes. They've planted their own in multiple areas. And my biggest concern is how to bring about this awareness amongst Hindu Americans living in the Western world, especially in the US and Canada. How do we appraise them of what is happening? How do we explain this to them? Because they're going to say, oh, who are the bad actors? Who are funding these people? How did they get to do this? And so on and so forth. So we got to connect the dots, and we got to walk them through the path with little crumbs, because we can't give them the whole picture all at once. And there are various things that go on. For example, Equality Lab, 𝗬𝗏𝗧, Sadhana, Hindus for Human Rights, all these other organizations are at the campus level. And then we have, Peter Fredreich, who's going around. Now they are threatened by this bill that is due to be passed in Georgia called SB 375, which is a bill on Hinduphobia, accentuating the threats against the Hindu community, the bigoted remarks, the racist remarks, the temple attacks, all of this, documenting all of this as to why we need this SB 375, and to celebrate the contributions of Hindu Americans. So it does both of these things at the state level. We already have a resolution at the Forsyth County level, which has passed on the same Hinduphobia, with all the threats against the Hindu community, and then to accentuate our contributions. And now this has come to the state level, where a bill is going to be passed, and this is somehow threatening all these people, and that's why they have focused their energies, their money, and their time on Georgia. Since October 6th, we have Peter Fredreich visiting various city council and city commissioners meetings, just walking in there, explaining to them about us as a Hindu community, not just CoHNA, but all other Hindu organizations are, slammed, are made to look bigoted, are made to look racist, as if we are full of hate, we are Hindu nationalists, extremists, like Suresh mentioned. All of these terminologies are used against us, and that the fact that we are dual actors, and so on and so forth. But if you look at his own standing, it is he who has made bigoted remarks against the Jews, against the LGBTQ community, against our congressmen in office, like 𝗤𝗙ci 𝗲𝗏 and Aruna Miller and all these people, and even Raja Krishnamurthy.
He said very life-threatening remarks against him. Yes.
Yeah.
Raja Krishnamurthy. So these are bigoted remarks that we need to appraise our community and say, these are elected officials, elected in a democratic process, and this is the way that they're being treated. And also, Reverend Jesse Jackson has told us how bigoted this person is in terms of his remarks against Raja Krishnamurthy and all these that have been made. So this is the history that he has, and we need to bring to light some of this. Some of the Hindus who are not aware of this and are not in these circles to know about all these details, we need to appraise them. And of course, we need to bring all of this to the university level to show them who the bad actors are, who the true bad actors are.
Thank you so much, 𝗏𝗏𝗍. I want to ask both of you one question. First, I'll start with Suresh. Okay, so we are telling our Hindu parents that, look, doing what you've been doing is not really an option. You need to start getting more proactive. My 2 cents would be to start taking part in school councils from a primary school level, because some of the legislation that quietly gets inserted is like halal food, or let's just leave it at that. Something that is only targeted at a specific community, as if it's a must-have and things of that nature. You need to be aware of that. That's my 2 cents. I'd like both of you to share your thoughts on what we can tell our up-and-coming parents. I mean, right now, things also are so bad. I mean, by the time our Hindu boy and girl get married, they are well into their 30s. Mm-hmm. So you have a very small reproductive window. Unless they have children during that time period, then there's a different thing. But assume that they have children. So they are in their 40s, children are 5, 6, and so on and so forth. We need to tell them, look, don't do these things, because this is what the new reality is. I'd like both of you to weigh in, starting with you, Suresh.
So I think there are two communities within the Hindu community that I would like to address. One is the majority of the Hindu community in the United States, who are essentially people who are holding down jobs, raising a family like everybody else. For them, the important thing is to make sure that their kids have a good, solid exposure to the basic stuff, basic tenets of Hinduism. But more importantly, to never apologize for their religious beliefs, and always carry that skepticism when somebody tells them that your religion is bad, is to say, okay, why are they telling me that? And if it is bad, how did it survive for 5,000 years? Right? So that's one thing. But I also want to address the other part of the Hindu community, or I would call the ones that give the Hindu American community their name, the ones that push the average, wealth of the Hindu American community to this level. And I would ask the millionaires, the billionaires within the Hindu community, and I would literally beg them to say, look, the community depends on your generosity.
Mm-hmm.
The community depends on you to help fund some of this stuff so we can have a proper debate, we can have a proper conversation about these things. We need our philanthropists to not just support programs in India, also give to American institutions. And I'll give you an example. CSRR, the one that funded this report, is entirely funded from outside of Rutgers. Rutgers doesn't fund it. It is funded from outside. Georgetown has a similar institute called the Bridge Institute, the Bridge Initiative, and that is entirely funded by the Saudi government, Saudi and the Qatari governments, to the tune of about $20 or $30 million. Now, I know for a fact that for many of our Hindu American leaders, business leaders, 20 or 30 million is chump change. We have
Yes.
our share of billionaires, no question. I would like to challenge some of them to step up and say, you know what, we will fund a place where Hinduism and Hindu religion and dharma can be properly studied. We will fund our own bridge initiatives, our own CSRRs in universities in the United States. So we can, and I know Rajiv Malhotra tried it some time ago, but he didn't get a lot of support. And I would like to reiterate that call to say, guys, look, we have to become part of the process. If we don't become part of the process, there's no point in complaining and say, oh, the process left us by, right?
Yes.
So that would be my two-pronged request. One, to the day-to-day Hindu Americans, teach your kids it's okay to be Hindu. It's okay to be somebody like me going to college, because this is how I went to college. Nothing bad happened. It's okay, right? And the other is to the philanthropists among the Hindu community to say, guys, you really need to take a lead in making sure that we have representation in academia, because that's where policy gets made.
I want to add something about Suresh, but I'll do it after we listen to Shobhaji. Your inputs on what we should advise our children, our next generation, sorry.
Definitely give them a good, solid, strong Hindu foundation as an identity, like Suresh ji is saying, there's nothing bad happened to us, and we all went to college this way. We went to college here in the United States, and we are doing well. So in addition to all the structured education that we get in schools and colleges and universities here, the values that Sanatana Dharma espouses, definitely focus on those, give this to children and students a strong Hindu identity, and also we have done nothing wrong. This needs to be emphasized from our adults and our community. We need to be bold and courageous and say, yes, I'm a Hindu, and that doesn't mean that we are doing anything wrong to any other people or any other religious sect or group, because we are the ones that the base core principle is mutual respect, treating everybody, both sentient and insentient beings on earth, with equal respect, because everything has a role to play. And that has come out, in all of the sciences. The same thread of information has come out, that we're all made of the same, Pancha Mahabhutas, and science has proven that as well. And that, we should be really respectful of our environment, of the animals, of the trees, of the plants, of, every little single atom and every other amoeba that exists on earth. So children need to know this, that there is no need to be ashamed. And perhaps, like you were talking about, Sree, our generation didn't see the threat coming, imminent threat coming. These days, the parents should be made aware of this, and they should really bring up their children with this awareness and with a strong foundation. Our HPN, Hindu Parents Network, has amazing workshops. Our flagship one is the Beautiful Tree program, run by second-gen Hindus right here in the United States. So the facilitators are excellent. The workshops are really, praiseworthy, both by students and by parents, time and again. So avail of these opportunities, take the time and spend the time to expose your children to some strong values and strong heroes in our Sanatana Dharma, in our Itihasa, Purana, and history. So this is a combination of, all three things. So people are not just thinking that is 5,000 years old and 24,000 years old, and how is it applicable? And all our Swamijis tell us all the time that all of this is applicable today, in today's modern world, with our gadgets and all. So this is what I have as a request. And like Suresh mentioned, I want to have a call to action to Hindu Americans, especially right now that we are facing this concern in Georgia, to step up, to come with us to City Hall so we can show a group support. Right now, we are working with several Hindu organizations, HSS, 𝗣𝗽𝗲𝗍, and many other organizations coming together, and we are taking on this task of visiting city councils and commissioners' offices and meetings to explain to them who we are. And we need to be doing this on a 24/7 basis. Anytime you meet a congressman, anytime you meet a city council member, attend a city council meeting and take 2 minutes to explain about who we are, and a greater and a better understanding of our Hindu culture and tradition needs to become common, mainstream thought and understanding for children too, who are both Hindus and non-Hindus as well. That's what
Absolutely.
accepted at a much better level.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Suresh, if you don't mind my telling this, viewers, what you see of Suresh Krishnamurthy today here is exactly how he used to look when he used to go to IIT Madras, Chennai. And this is from his classmate who told me that he would wear the same vibhuti and kumkum, and he would also wear a veshti. Cast your mind back 40 plus years ago when he was a student. We were dying to wear pants. We were dying to. People used to joke that if you are a student at IIT, you've already arrived. You are getting ready to take the next flight out to US or UK or wherever, and yet Suresh was so grounded. That makes him very unique, and I have a lot of respect for you, Suresh. And only after I started seeing you, I said, look, I think I need to start expressing myself. Yeah. The thing that shocked me here, Suresh, is, whether I wear this or whether I wear Tripundra, when I am in Coimbatore, right, I do what you do, meaning I wear a veshti and I'm wearing this and I go about doing my shopping, meeting people and all that. Everybody looks at me like with shock. Why is this guy wearing this? I'm talking about deep South Tamil Nadu, Coimbatore, people are very religious. They may have a bhakti sometimes, but somehow wearing your own native clothing, expressing yourself for what you are, somehow suddenly is being looked at in a different way, and it kind of made me uncomfortable. Why I say that is, if I go to Costco today to shop, right, there's a considerable amount of Indian American population, Sikh Americans, Muslim Americans, and Hindu Americans. When a Sikh American just sees me, right, he doesn't even have to greet me or do namaskar or anything like that. His eyes tell me the respect. Oh, here is a guy who's a devout Hindu. That's enough.
That's right.
That's exactly what you're saying. I am a Hindu and I'm proud of it. I'm not trying to hide myself as something else. So, and people ask me, hey, listen, sometimes funnily also, what did you go and hit your head against? I see 3 bandits,
and yes, I do get those random encounters. So, for example, I was at Publix yesterday with exactly like this, and a lady just walked up to me and said, "What is that on your head?" And I said, "Yeah, I did my puja in the morning. This is part of my puja." She said, "Oh, wow, that's pretty cool." We got to talking. Turns out she was a veteran, and I said I was a volunteer fireman, and we had a nice conversation. But to go back to what you said about Coimbatore, it's interesting because I find that in the United States, people actually respect you when you are proud of your identity in a way that's not arrogant. right? If you're just naturally proud of your identity without trying to impose it on somebody else, say, oh, look how great I am, they actually respect you. So when I go shopping like this, and I think 𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗃 has referred to this sometime as well, when I go shopping like this, Americans in general, and this is something I really, really like about the country that we have all called our home, is that they actually respect you for your own individuality and for the conviction of your own beliefs, as long as those convictions don't interfere with the broader vision of what America is. So when I go like, we are talking about Hindu youth, and my encouragement to Hindu youth, especially girls, is, look, you want to wear a bindi, go wear a bindi, don't hesitate. And you know what was interesting? I was watching the ICC World Cup, Women's World Cup, right? And there is one girl she's a spin bowler, Sharma. She shows up at the game with a bindi on her forehead. I am like, wow. You know, she is playing international cricket, right, where all these things are considered like bad. And she inevitably shows up with a bindi, and I'm impressed. I'm not saying everybody should do it, but I'm impressed that she does. Yes. And that's what I really like to send a message to our youth, is to say, when I say, like, be proud of who you are, be proud of expressing yourself in whatever way you choose. And if that means wearing a bindi to class, do it. If that means putting a proper, pinnal in the back of your head and showing up in a sari to class, do it. It's okay. It's okay for our girls to show up in a sari to a class at Rutgers. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm just waiting for the first girl to do it.
Very true. Very true.
Very true.
Yes.
I mean, I've seen videos. Vijaya Vishwanathan, who co-wrote Snakes in Ganga with Rajiv Malhotra ji. Her son, Ashok, I think his name is.
Yes.
And I've seen him wearing a veshti, get on a bicycle and bike his way to Stanford University. He's doing his master's there. And I said, wow, that's something. And then I asked him, did it feel funny? He said, no. There are cross dressers. I don't even know all the different nuances. Sorry about this. He said, everybody comes dressed in whatever they feel like. He's like, classroom is a classroom. We go there to gather knowledge.
It's funny you should say that, because if I saw Ashok do that in Stanford, my immediate thought would be, yep, that was me 45 years ago.
Yes.
Right? That's exactly how it was. I was in my dhoti, biking through with a little bag on my shoulder, going from class to class at IIT. Right? It's okay. It's perfectly okay. And that's my takeaway message to our kids. If any of them are watching this, my takeaway message is, don't be shy of being who you are. You are who you are.
Very true.
It's okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
And today, even viewers, if you go during the Sabarimala season, there are 3 or 4 months in the year, you will see many people wearing black, not wearing chappals. And there are so many rigid things that they follow. They will, if they are meat eaters, they will not eat meat. Some of them are very rigid about how they sleep. And what is it? It's body cleansing, your mind and body cleansing, because for that diksha you do 45 days. You do that because that trigger is needed so that you can stay clear of thought and you have clarity in your mind once you do this, rather difficult trek, I might say. Many people even walk to Sabarimala. So we have all these things embedded. Someone who doesn't even understand these things, and if you don't know the difference between Hindu and Hindutva, I mean, what can I say? There is no hope. All I can tell those parents who are sending their children to Rutgers, please don't enroll in our classes on Hinduism.
Yeah, I mean, just all wrong. Ridiculous, right? And I'm glad you brought up Sabarimala. I mean, I have a personal experience with that. My father had ulcer, right? And then he started going to Sabarimala. He went to Sabarimala for almost 30 years. 5 years into his yearly trips, and he went through the 40-day mandala and the whole night. And over time, his ulcer actually got better. And I watched it. I literally watched it as I was growing up. And somewhere along the line, I asked my guru, what's going on? He says, look, our practices have been designed to heal the body. I'm not going to ascribe some miracle to this. This is not about miraculous stuff. This is simply about discipline and how the discipline is designed to help your body. So for all these whole health people, I'm like, guys, we have all that. We just need to have faith that it works and be patient.
Absolutely. And same thing with our Navaratri fasting, our 9-day fast,
Yes,
2, 3,
yes.
4 times a year, 𝗥𝗚𝗙𝗍 fasting. All of this is, it's a holistic system that's built in to cleanse the mind and the body. There is clarity of mind that comes through following these austerities and following these principles. Definitely. Yeah. So I would give a big shout out to all the Hindu Americans here in Georgia who are supporting us in this endeavor of advocacy, of showing up at city halls, of advocating for ourselves and speaking to elected officials about who we are, our great culture, and a better understanding of Hindu dharma and Hindu culture and tradition across Georgia. And a big shout out to all those who are supporting us all across. As all other organizations, we are in need of funds. And please donate generously. This is the time of giving, from Navratri to 𝗣𝗚𝗏 to Kartikeya Masam and beyond. So please donate generously. We need funds to counter such narratives, to stay strong and bold, and to inspire and motivate our next generation.
Thank you so much, 𝗍𝗧𝗍. Thank you so much, Sureshji. So a little bit of stuff for all of our parents. Please understand, watch this thing till the end, and also share. And if you have not subscribed to our channel, do subscribe to our channel. And like 𝗍𝗧𝗍 said, do contribute to CoHNA.org. They're doing fantastic work. They are in many campuses now. They really are going about it the right way, in my opinion. All kudos to you, Nikunj, and all the team CoHNA. Both of you do a lot of tireless work and wonderful stuff. May your tribe grow. And this is important because we need to understand what the richness of our civilization is. And first we do it ourselves, then we are in a better position to tell others. Thanks once again. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Namaste. Thank you.